wouldn't stay too long. My dad was actually my stepfather, Mike Dibiase, had a heart attack and died in the ring in Lubbock, Texas in 1969 when I was 15 years old. That was part of my reason for getting out of the ring. I said I wasn't gonna stay too long. And I'm glad I didn't, because there's a lot of guys that stayed longer than I have. And I'm looking at them and their bodies now, and they're beat up. I'm not to say that I don't have my aches and pains, but I'm not as beat up as some of my colleagues. But I'm sure you all have questions, and so I'm gonna, go to the floor, and if you have a question, let me know.
That's right, go ahead and raise your hand, and then we'll run out to you with the microphone. So we'll just kind of point you out, and just kind of whoever wants to go, and we'll make sure to get everybody. So, any questions? Right. Y'all are really about to have me put in my miles today. I'm going all over. Here we go. Over here. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
So I'm Darian. I've watched you since I was a little kid, and I was wondering when you were at NXT helping, I forget his name now.
Cameron Grimes.
Yeah, Cameron Grimes. Yes. What was that like working with him?
It was a lot of fun. I mean, the company called me and they said, we've got this idea, we've got this character that we call him Cameron Grimes, and in reality, he does invest in the stock market. And apparently, he had made an investment where he really landed a big return. And so they just decided, they said, we're gonna make a story out of this. Like, he becomes a millionaire overnight and starts acting like you, only not doing it very well. And so we want you to come in and just show up, for 2 or 3 weeks and just keep one-upping him. And so like, we did the one thing where he goes in the jewelry store, and he gets this beautiful solid gold Rolex watch, and I walk up behind him and I hold him a diamond bezeled watch, and I said, nice watch, kid, but that's not $1 million watch. And I just walk away and he's left there going, man. So we had a lot of fun with that, and actually I got to know him. The other thing that I didn't know until I got there and got to know him, that what Cameron and I both have in common, we both come from wrestling families. His father was a wrestler. His father actually, I guess, ran some shows, and so he says, I've been putting up rings since I was a little kid. So he's been around the wrestling business like I was all my life. But anyway, I had a lot of time. The other guy that got involved, that guy they called
LA Knight.
What was it?
LA Knight.
LA Knight. He was a good worker too. Did they move him up?
Yeah. He's up on SmackDown.
He's
now. Maximum Male Models.
He has a new character.
Are they using him well?
No. He's a manager.
Are they using anybody well?
They're getting better.
Triple H is running it now.
Well, I'm sorry, but it's hard for me to watch wrestling. I think the girls in the WWE are having better matches than the men. Their matches are more believable. And that's my whole thing, gang. I grew up on old school. Make it real. If you were in a real fight, it's like I told a guy one time, you're in a real fight, you're out there, and you're on this side of the street, and there's a light post on the other side of the street. Do you think that you could grab that guy by the hair of his head and run him all the way across the street into that light pole? No. You might pull his hair out, but you're not going to run him all the way across the street by the hair. So what makes you think that you can run a guy all the way across the ring? I said, but if you're standing right next to that light pole, you think you could grab him by the head and go bang? Yes. Make it real. And sell. They take these great, big, beautiful bumps over the top rope. Whenever I did that, you didn't see me hop up like a rabbit. I laid there and I sold it. That's what's missing in wrestling today. The story is not in the ring anymore. The story is what's going on backstage, and who's doing what to who, and it's become a big soap opera. And I'm just venting here. I long for the good old days, because what wrestling used to be was the story was the match. Next weekend, I'm going to Albany, New York, for the International Wrestling Hall of Fame. And Dory Funk Jr. is being inducted, and I'm going to get up and talk about him and about my relationship with the Funk family. One of the greatest matches I ever saw in my life was between Dory Funk Jr. and Jack Briscoe. They wrestled to a 1-hour draw for the NWA World Heavyweight Championship in Amarillo, Texas. And I'm smart to the business, I know it's a work, but they had me. They drew me into the story. I mean, I'm jumping up, I'm sitting on the edge of my seat, what's gonna happen next? But they told the story. The story was the match. The story was the contest in the ring, the give and the take, and the back and the forth. And a high spot was a high spot. Now, the whole dang match is a high spot. It's bouncing off of this thing and doing a triple somersault, and going over the top rope, bouncing up like nothing happened to you. It makes no sense. Anyway.
Got another question over here. Go ahead and
I'm
introduce
sorry.
yourself.
Go ahead.
So, my name's Robert. So, being in the wrestling family, I just want to know, like, what was your feeling when you found out your sons wanted to take on family business?
Well, I guess initially it was kind of like of course my dad died, and we never had that conversation because he was dead and gone. But he didn't want me to be a wrestler, not because of the wrestling. He didn't want me to be a wrestler because of what comes along with wrestling, the lifestyle that it forces you to live. And there's so many guys that have gotten messed up by living that lifestyle. But to the credit of the one advancement in our business, I mean now, these guys work 4 days a week. They do Friday night SmackDown, they work Saturday, they do a show on Sunday, and maybe if it's a pay-per-view in some cases, and then they do Monday Night Raw and go home for 3 days. Now that's part of the crew. Now, if you're one of the top guys, if you were like a John Cena or a Hulk Hogan or one of those guys who were the man at the time, you may not be off those 3 days because the boss is going to have you somewhere doing something representing WWE. You're going to make money doing it, but you're going to be gone. And that was my whole point. It's like, and quite frankly, I wrote a book about it. I said, that lifestyle very nearly cost me my marriage, out of my own stupidity. Because we started traveling like rock stars. I mean, when I first went to work in the WWF, as it was known then, we went out 3 straight weeks, 21 days, 21 cities, and then we'd go home for a week and then we'd do it again. Then they thought, well, that's too long, 3 weeks, three straight weeks. So they cut it down to like, okay, we'll send you out 10 days, send you home 3, send you out for 4 more, send you home for 3, and then send you out 10 again. So you're not gone for as long a period of time, but when you add up the days, still you're only home 6 days a month. And what kind of life can you have that way? So that was my angst about I love wrestling. I mean, I loved what I did. It's kind of like, Bill Watts said this about me, and he didn't say it where I heard it, but it actually shocked me when I heard it. He said the greatest wrestler I ever had was Ted Dibiase because he wanted it so bad. He lived it, he breathed it, he dreamed it, and I was like, wow. And coming from Watts, that's a pretty high compliment. But I mean, I did. I was one of those kids who grew up and said, I'm going to be like my daddy. And I've said that all the time. I said, I'm one of the few people who went to work every day. Even though a lot of those days were 300 miles, 400 miles, 600 miles, across the ocean miles to go to work. But I did it, and I loved it, and I still do. I look back at the miles now and go, how did I do that? Well, it was a burning desire. I mean, it's like if you love something, you're gonna pull out the plug and go for it. So,
Absolutely, I know that one. In radio, there's no days off. Here we are on a Saturday, right, Jerry?
Yep.
Yeah. Do you know where I'm, by the way? Your Country 103.9 KGRT. You mentioned, the lifestyle and the travel that goes along with that. And of course, it maybe not as good, but as you said, if you're one of the top guys, WWE had them doing cameras in their cars when they were doing road trips now these days for the network and other things like that. But what do you think of the idea of an off-season, maybe riding somebody out for just a few months at an injury angle, just to give them some time off to heal those wounds, and if you can cycle your roster, because there's rather large rosters these days in most of the major companies that are out there now.
well, if you're able to do that, but what happens is, and it's like, because wrestling is sports entertainment, they develop storylines. And it's like you would have to time the storylines to where they're either gonna, okay, this thing is gonna go this long, again, another saying in show business, the show must go on. I can't tell you how many times that I've been in a bathroom in the locker room, puking my guts out, and then, okay, go right to the ring, have a match, and even roll out of the ring and under the ring and puke under the ring and get back in the ring. Of course, my opponent didn't like that very much. But, the show must go on sometimes. But it's a timing thing. I mean, if you could do it, that would be great. But I mean, there's no doubt that it's better. It's better now in terms of the ability to be home more and have more of a family life than it was in the past.
All right, we got another question. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Lupe. Thank you for coming. I love Money. The tag team was just one of my favorites of all time. Did you have a preference working on your own or being in a tag team, or did you not like it at the beginning?
I was okay with the tag, but I had the most fun personally on my own, being just me. But when they tagged me up with Mike Rotunda, Mike's great. Mike's great. He's a good hand. He's got a lot of charisma. Maybe not as much as another guy, but an unbelievably solid worker. And I thought we made a really good team.
All right, go ahead and introduce yourself.
My name is Cedric. I'm from the Las Cruces. At WrestleMania 4, the main event, was it originally planned for you to go over to Macho Man?
Yeah, I think there was. Nobody ever said, well, initially the thought was probably, okay, because the whole build-up, the Saturday night main event, which was the first time that wrestling was seen on live network, nationwide television since the 50s. And, Hogan and Andre and the whole, the twin referees, and we find a way to screw Hogan, Andre puts the belt on me, and here we go. And then they take it away, and what do? We have a tournament to declare the champion. But just shortly before WrestleMania, Pat Patterson called me and he said, Ted, I want to talk to you. I have an idea. He said, the way we usually do things, we have built you up like this monster heel now, and we've done this thing, and now it's like we're going to do this tournament. The people are expecting you. What they think is going to happen is they think that you're going to find a way to screw Hogan at the end of this, and then you go around with Hogan. He said, I just want you to think about this. What if it backfires on you? You don't win. And when you don't win, and Savage does, you just throw up your hands and go, basically, screw them. I don't need your stinking belt. I'll create my own. As soon as he said it, I said, do that. I said, because that's heat. That arrogant, no good SOB, who the heck does he think he is? that was going to put a ton of heat on me. Heat is what it's all about. And oftentimes, even though a belt, I would say this, a belt is a product. It's show business. But I would say where the belt is more than a product is if you're the guy who they've got the world title on, you better be able to wrestle well enough that you can carry everybody you get in the ring with. Or if you're not able to carry everybody you get in the ring with, then whoever's putting you in the ring better make sure that the other guy is capable of carrying you. You know, and the one guy who wasn't capable of carrying anybody was the Ultimate Warrior. He knew how to do three things. There you go. Yeah. And everybody knows that story. Yeah. It's a sad story. But that's where I would say, because like before WWF, when there was regional territories, probably the most recognized world title was the NWA world title. Because I mean, Florida, Georgia, California, all, you know, and basically the WWF title was just the East Coast. It was the WWF territory. And then Vern Gagne had a champion, the AWA world title. That was just his territory. But the NWA was several territories. That guy carrying that belt had to be the guy who could be a babyface, he could be a heel, he could carry anybody he got in the ring with. So that's where I would say, you gotta have the right guy. That's where it meant something. But oftentimes the belt's a problem. And so in this case, in this scenario, as a businessman, the smartest thing I could do is, put the dang belt on Savage. I'm gonna wrestle him anyway. You know, I'm gonna be in that main event match and make the same money. You know, and yet, but put the heat on me by me creating my own belt. And I'm still carrying that stupid thing around. Oh, people ask about the belt. Is it real? Technically, no, it's not real. But when they made it in 1988, I mean, Vince McMahon does everything first class. Betteridge Jewelers in Greenwich, Connecticut, one of the most high-end jewelry stores you could ever go to. Terry Betteridge is the guy who created and made the $1 million belt. All the stones in the face of the belt, the front of the belt, the little ones, they're cubic zirconia. I asked my wife, what's a cubic zirconia? Because she said it's almost a diamond. Almost a diamond. Yeah. It's not worth as much as a diamond, but almost. So there were 700 stones, little ones, in the face of that belt at $50 a piece. That's 35 grand. And then there were the bigger stones, on the belt. And here's the funny part. On the back of the belt, there's 3 diamonds on the real belt. I looked at that and I said, what's that? And they said, oh, Ted, those are 3 real diamonds. I said, why? Nobody can see them. He said, if anybody ever asks you, are the diamonds real? You can say yes, and you won't be lying. So I thought it was funny. But anyway, its estimated value in 1988 was 40 grand. And where is it now? It's in the safe in the office in Stanford. When and if they ever do have their, legit Hall of Fame, that's probably where you see it again. But the belt. Now, when I did the stuff with Cameron at NXT, they got the real belt for that, and that was the real belt. But anyway, the belt. I answered all the questions about the belt.
Any questions? If you got a question.
Did I really kick the ball? The little kid dribbling the basketball? Yeah, I kicked the ball. You all saw me kick the ball. But did the kid really get the money? Yeah, he did.
Hello, sir. My name is David. Huge fan since I was a kid, of course. You've been one of the most awesome villains in anything. Up there with like Green Goblin, Lex Luthor, whatever. You like flesh and blood. actually seeing you perform and everything. So what led you to, and how did it come to be that you went either from being a good guy to a bad guy in your career?
Well, I was, when you break into wrestling, most all the time you break in as a good guy because just for whatever reason, the heel in a wrestling match is the guy calling it, the bad guy. He's the man calling the shots. He's the one leading the match. And so, if you're a rookie, then you get in there, you're a baby face, and you just listen to them. And that's how you learn this business. The advantage that my generation had, that the current generation doesn't have, is that when we broke into wrestling, there were still territories all over the country, places you could go as a young wrestler and fine-tune your skills until you got to a level of performance where they could move you up. Where you were wrestling in front of a live crowd every night. You see, you could do something in a match with a guy one night, and then you try the same thing the next night in another town in another match. The crowd might not respond the way you expect them to. And when they don't, you have to have the ability to think on your feet and shift gears and do something that they're gonna buy. And that's the difference. To sit down and map out a match from bell to bell is not wrestling. It's not. The only thing I ever knew when I went to match was what we call the finish. How's this thing gonna end? Because that's the hook to get you back to the next show. Now, if I had history with a guy, say I had had a match already, and back when I was in Mid-South and I'd load the glove and knock whoever out, and cheat to win, I might, based on whatever the people saw the last time, I might say to the guy I'm working with, based on what the people saw last week, this week you should be just fired up at. So don't just walk to the ring. I'll be in the ring first, when they play your music, take off running, hit the ring, come after me and I'll run. You slide out of the ring, I'll run around the ring, you run around the ring, and I'll keep running until you catch me. And then beat pound the crap out of me and get the fans really, really up. And then we'll go on from there. Something like that. But other than that, that's all I ever knew was the finish. Everything else was calling on the fly. Because that's what wrestling really is. That's the real art of professional wrestling. And it's a dying art. Because I see a lot. There's not guys today that can have a 20-minute match. Because they can't remember a 20-minute match. Every move. And we're spending so much time taking bumps that it doesn't even look like a wrestling match anymore. Sorry for the mentee. But
That's why we're here.
it's who I am. And but anyway, that's it's hard. Terry Funk is one of my best friends. He's more like a brother. Terry's in a bad way health-wise now. He's not living at home. He's living like in a home where it's like an apartment, but there are people there, nurses and doctors that can take care of you. And I try to call him as often as I can. Every other time I call him, he'll say, "Teddy, did you see that shit on TV?" I said, "No, Terry, I didn't see it." I said, "Quit watching." I said, "Quit watching it, Terry. All it's going to do is make you mad." He said, "It did make me mad." I said, "Quit watching it." The good thing about it now is, God bless him, he can't remember it anymore. So, God bless him. One of my dearest friends. Anybody else? What you got?
Miles, we've got a question for you. So how many of the wrestlers do you stay in touch with from your era?
Oh gosh, wrestlers are like, it's like you don't see a guy for 2 years, 5 years, and then the next time you see him, you pick up like you saw him yesterday, and you just keep going. I keep up with Mike Rotunda. you know, because we got to be friends, and we still see each other from time to time at events like this. And a lot of the guys that do the Comic Cons, you know, are some of the guys that, you know, you know, Rick Flair and I are pretty good friends, and you know, I love Rick, but he's like the eternal child. He doesn't want to grow up. You know, God bless him, he just doesn't want to grow up. And so I gave up that lifestyle a long time ago. We're still pretty good friends. Shawn Michaels is another guy that's a good friend.
There is a weather alert.
Nikita Koloff is another guy who's also in ministry like I am now, that I try to keep in contact with, and
You need to go ahead and leave, that is fine.
that's, you know, that's about it, you know, not too many, but you know, it's like I said, we run into each other and say, how you doing? Let's keep going. And you know, we've lost a lot of guys. I tell you what scares me, man, it's like, you guys bring these posters sometimes to get signed, the wrestling posters that they put up for the advertisements. Somebody brought me one today, and it was like from Albuquerque, New Mexico in 1976 or 7. Everybody except me on that card is dead. It's like, wow, where are all my friends going? And we've had a lot of sadness here lately. Scott Hall was an unbelievable shot. Unbelievable. By the grace of God, Hacksaw Jim Duggan came through his cancer treatment and is doing really, really well. I spoke to him there's another guy I stay in touch with, Hacksaw. He was so funny. We used to have so much fun. Back when before he got his eye fixed. and cockeyed Duggan, he'd throw me out of the ring, and he'd stick his head through the ropes and start shaking his finger and figure out, and go, Jim, over here, over here. He's saying, hey, no eye jokes. We had a lot of fun. Anybody else?
All right, got one over here.
Yes, I was a big fan of yours growing up. I had a question on what did you think of the toys and action figures they made you? Did you have a favorite, and did they give you any of those?
I think I probably have each of them. I think that the craziest thing for me was, when the first time I walked into a toy store or a department store that had toy section, and I saw my very first action figure, it was like surreal. I said, that's me. I mean, that's really me. It's like I was just kind of like in disbelief. And what's so crazy now is, gang, I'm 68 years old. They're still making new action figures of me. The Funko Pops, at least they got the size of my head right. I don't know how many of those I've signed, but no, I don't know. It's and it's a good thing. I'm on the Legends list, and we still get a royalty check every quarter. Sometimes they're pretty good, sometimes they're fair, but everybody would think that it would be action figures, right? Video games. The most money all of us make on royalties is the video games. And they keep putting me in them. Keep putting me in them. I've never played one of those games in my life. But here's a true story for you. I've told this story before. I'm in Hawaii on a vacation. I'm with my wife and a good friend of mine who's a pastor and his wife. And we're in Maui. We're staying at the Marriott. I had a gazillion Marriott points, and staying in hotels 21 days a month, right? And so they had a laundry room, but in the laundry room they had the original stand-up version of the WrestleMania arcade game, right? Hogan's on it, I'm on it, Macho's on it. I'm not sure who else is on it. So I just happened to look in there, and there's a little black boy playing the game. So I walked in and I stood directly behind him. Who did he choose to play? Hogan versus me. So I just started talking. Knock his head off. Come on, man, knock his head off. Kelly. So he keeps playing, and he gives it one of these, like, real quick, and then he goes. He did the whole thing. He says, are you? He said, yeah, I'm the $1 million man. He said, can I have your autograph? I said, I'd be happy to sign it. But here's the mic drop. So I signed an autograph for him, and he says, you know, my dad's a celebrity too. I said, yeah. I said, who's your dad? He said, Magic Johnson. I said, can I meet your daddy? Would you take me to meet your daddy? True story. And I went and met Magic Johnson. Anybody else?
Yeah, Darian, so when you brought The Undertaker in, what was that like? Like, what was he like to work with? What was he like off of stage?
Mark Calloway has always been a real easygoing guy. He's a real nice guy. And again, it's like everybody's like, you brought The Undertaker in. No, I didn't bring The Undertaker in. Vince McMahon brought The Undertaker in. I'm just the person that he got to introduce him. I'm the one that introduced him to the world, and for that, again, to introduce him and to get him going, you know, the rub, because I was an established heel, give him the rub to help elevate him quick, and he took the ball and ran with it. Nobody ever dreamed that character would become as iconic as it has, and to his credit, man, and to work that style is not easy. It's kind of like, you know, it's almost like, you know, you gotta have good timing and work in slow motion. It's not easy, but he does a heck of a job of it. So, but yeah, he's a real good guy, and he's a good friend, and also has become a Christian brother as well here lately. So that makes me even happier. Yeah, we got him away from that. What was that guy that ran around with him?
Paul Bear?
Huh?
Paul Bear?
Yeah, Paul Bear. No, Paul Bear is really a good guy too. Anybody?
Any other questions?
Favorite Andre the Giant story?
Andre the Giant. You know, I loved Andre. You know, HBO did a really good job of demonstrating to all of you fans just how difficult Andre's life was. But Andre was a great guy. I mean, imagine being so big that you can't fit in anything. You know, even in a first class seat, you know, like a first class seat for Andre was like me sitting in coach. I can sit in that dang seat, but it's not comfortable. He was always looking to get comfortable. And but my favorite story, we did TV somewhere, and then we were going. The whole crew was going to Japan. And so it's a 14-hour flight from just about anywhere in the United States to Tokyo. And so we get off that plane, and now we got to get on a bus and go into the city of Tokyo from the airport and check into the hotel. Well, because of the time difference, that first day, what you want to do is stay awake and stay up as late as you can, because if you don't, because of your time clock, you're going to wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning being wide-eyed, and at 2 o'clock in the afternoon you're going to be falling asleep. So we all decided we're gonna throw our bags down, we're gonna freshen up, and we'll meet in the lobby, and we'll go out somewhere and eat and stay up. And so I went, did my thing. I hit the elevator button, the door opens, and there's Andre. Hey boss, let's go eat. Okay, Andre. So we start down. The elevator stops like on every other floor, and all these little Japanese people get on. And they keep getting on. Now, 3 stops ago, you and I would have said, this elevator's full, wait for the next one. Not in Japan. Japan, the whole country, is roughly the size of the state of California. The population of Japan is half that of the United States. That's stacking them up, Jack. So they're always, yes, they do it. They actually have people at the train stations that, like push people in there. They pack the trains to make sure they're full when they leave anyway. So they keep getting on the elevator. Andre reaches over and just kind of gives me a tap, and I looked up at him and he winked at me. I said, okay, something about that. Well, gang, the next thing I heard was, to this day, the loudest, longest fart in my entire life. I remember thinking, I know it's Andre the Giant, but how could any human possibly have that much air in their body? It's like it just never stopped, and all I could picture was the poor little Jap guy that's directly behind him, getting it full face. But can I tell you something? When that elevator door opened, they all got off. They were tripping over each other trying to get out the door, falling down, and they were talking. I'm sure they were cussing the giant. So, but you gotta see the picture. They're all out. Yelling and screaming. The elevator doors are closing, and all you could hear was, He looked at me and says, I guess they won't crowd the big man anymore, will they? That is my favorite Andre story. He's a great guy. He's a wonderful guy and an unbelievable human being. Pretty good judge of character, too. Chances are, if Andre didn't like you, well, you were pretty much a prick. So, yeah, pretty good judge of character. And not somebody you wouldn't want to like you. So, more questions, anybody? We still got time?
Oh, we got one right over here. One question that I have is, who was your favorite person to travel with whenever you were on the road? Who was your favorite person to be in the car with?
Andre.
No.
He stopped at all the bars. Now, that's kind of half-heartedly said because, could you imagine drinking with Andre? When he wrapped his hand around a beer can, which is the same size as a Coke can, you couldn't see the can. I mean, it looked like one of them little minis in his hand, First time I met him, I was still playing football at West Texas State, and he comes to Amarillo to wrestle, and this is the Funk's territory, and they had asked me, they said, can you take the Giant out after the show for a Thursday night? I said, sure, be happy to. And so, took him out, to the Texas Steakhouse, and then we go to this club that I would go to, and a lot of college kids went to. So we sit down, and our maid comes and said, what do you order? He says, you have trash can? He says, yeah, we got lots of trash cans. I mean, big trash can. And she said, yeah. He said, empty trash can. You have empty trash can? Put 5 cases of beer in the trash can on ice and bring it to the table. She looked at me and I went, I would do it if I were you. And she did. But I mean, could you just imagine? I mean, a case of beer to him was like, a six-pack to anybody else. But yeah, and I remember a lot of nights with Andre, and there's a whole lot of nights I don't remember. I know this, he always got me home.
Hello, my name is Ben. What was it like holding and defending your $1 million title?
What was it like defending my $1 million title? Well, it was a whole lot of fun because in our business, we know who's going to win before we go out the door. I actually had to lose my belt to Virgil. That was horrible. But I got it back. Yeah. Yeah, Virgil's a character. He's not a very bright person, but he's not a very, I mean, he's kind of simple. But back in those days, he took, he talked about discipline. I mean, to look as good as he looked took a lot of discipline. You know, he worked out and he stayed in great shape because that was his thing. Basically, most of the time, all he had to do was stand there and look good, and he could do that. There have been issues come up with him, and I don't know. I'm trying to find out more right now. I mean, I've seen him a couple of times lately. We weren't seeing each other because of some of the crazy things I was hearing, like him talking to people at Comic Cons and telling the promoters that if they would book us, meaning him and I, and then he would end up going by himself because he'd never talked to me. You know, oh, Ted couldn't make it, something came up. That's not good. So he and I had a big long talk about that. But I don't know, sometimes desperate people do things at desperate times, and I don't know how he is financially. I know that when we were together, he lived at home with his mom. And I'm sure his mom has probably passed away by now, and the last time I saw him, he didn't look real good, so I have told some of the guys promoting these shows, you know, if you hear from Virgil and I'm gonna be on the show, go ahead and bring him. And, cause you know, I don't wanna see, nobody wants to see him just put out. So, and pray for him, cause I pray for him too.
Okay. I have one more question, just because I told these guys I was gonna ask everything. Because I am a big fan of your son, Junior. I thought he was a great wrestler, I thought he was awesome in the ring, and he was a really awesome guy. Odds are not likely, but I gotta ask, what are the odds that he might maybe just come back for a match or two?
You know, just recently, we've actually been talking about that. I mean, everybody asks me, what does Teddy do? My son is the one child I have that graduated from college. He graduated with a degree in business administration. Teddy's he's an entrepreneur. He's on the phone constantly talking to this. Right now, he is in partnership with a couple other guys. One of those guys being Donald Trump Jr. And they have just started a new insurance company. And so that's one of the things he's doing. The other thing that he's got going is a striping company, a company that stripes parking lots. You know what I'm talking about? Where you park your cars. And so now they've made contracts with several big chains that are nationwide to do all that striping. Well, that's a lot of money. So I mean, it could be that my son may end up being the real $1 million man, and I might be going to him for a loan. But he has, I said, I said, you were in great shape. You could get in great shape again. You could get in. It'd take you a little longer to get back in ring shape, but you still got it. And he's been thinking about it.
Don't get my hopes up too much, but I love it if you were to come back, Especially now with Cody being back and a few others, that could be some really good stories that they could tell.
Yeah,
Reunite
he said
legacy.
to me the other day, yeah, I'm gonna go back there and make Cody my bitch.
Excellent. Do we have any questions? We probably got time for one more.
Can you do the laugh?
Don't let me leave without reminding all of you. Everybody's got a price for the $1 million man.